A lot of time criticizing you. You told me a couple years ago on air that you were afraid of what Trump could theoretically do if he ever were returned to the White House. How do you feel now?
Yeah, it's possible. Do I think he's going to start arresting comedians? I don't.
No, it's not that I've gotten old. It's that your ideas are stupid. Okay,
Common sense is still common sense.
Yes, common sense is common sense, and I'm going to call it out wherever it is on.
Bill Maher just set CNN on fire, and he didn't even have to raise his voice. While the network was melting down over Trump like it was 2016 all over again, Maher leaned back, sipped his truth tea, and calmly exposed the circus for what it really is. A desperate ratings grab dressed up as journalism. If you thought CNN couldn't get more unhinged, wait until you hear what Bill said right to their faces. Spoiler alert, he didn't hold back.
I'm not going to chase every rabbit down the hole like I did the first term. You know, that's what I mean about he's not going to get my mind. He's a kooky guy who says a lot of kooky things, and I'm just not going to pre-hate anything. I'm just going to hope for the best, and then when something serious happens, I'll comment on that.
Right out of the gate, Maher goes on the offensive, setting the tone for everything that follows. Calm, composed, but razor sharp. He makes one thing clear. Unlike CNN, he's not there to turn every Trump moment into an apocalyptic meltdown. Maher refuses to play the media's game of hyperventilating over headlines or obsessively dissecting every word Trump says. Instead, he calls out the hysteria for exactly what it is, manufactured outrage posing as journalism, and he does it live on air. Realizing Maher wasn't in the mood for another round of Trump derangement syndrome, the host quickly pivoted to Biden.
Writing an election book, and one of the things I just stumbled on was a monologue you gave in October 2023, in which you warned the Democratic Party of Ruth Bader Biden. You were saying the American people think he's too old. You're worried about this. You had a great line about it doesn't matter if he's a national treasure and has done great things. If you got on an airplane and you heard that Buzz Aldrin was the pilot, you'd get off. I'm sorry for botching your very funny joke, but they didn't listen to you. But you were proven correct.
Bill Maher is, without question, one of the sharpest comedians and most brutally honest voices in American media. Watch how he gets an entire CNN panel to suddenly pivot and start talking about Biden instead. While Democrats were repeating the claim that Biden was perfectly fit to run, Maher stood almost alone on the left, warning about the political disaster ahead if Biden stayed on the ticket. That prediction didn't age well for his critics. Now, the same people who dismissed him are scrambling to rewrite history. But Maher's receipts are loud, clear, and impossible to ignore.
I had standing to make that case because I had for so many years been the only person I know on television who was consistently railing against ageism. I have been saying for years, ageism is the last allowable prejudice that we can have in this country. You can always do the age jokes. You can always rail on people for being too old. And it was, as I said, a case-by-case basis. Some people at 70 act like they're 100 years old, and some people are like 40-year-olds. But this was a case, okay, where Biden was too old. Having made that case that it's a case-by-case basis, I was now saying, yes, some of those cases are that the person just is too old for the job. And he was going to be, much like Ruth Bader Ginsburg, someone who was seen in history as one who stayed at the fair too long and cost his party dearly.
That makes this moment even more interesting, considering CNN was one of the loudest voices pushing the ageism narrative. Anyone who dared question Biden's fitness was instantly labeled discriminatory and silenced with accusations of bias. So when Maher looks them straight in the eye and unapologetically defends his criticism of Biden, it's nothing short of epic. It's a masterclass in backbone, and it rips the mask off CNN's hypocrisy. They weaponized isms to shield Biden, and now they're choking on their own double standard. When the heat became too much to handle, the host quickly switched back to Trump.
A lot of time criticizing you. You told me a couple years ago on air that you were afraid of what Trump could theoretically do if he ever were returned to the White House. How do you feel now?
Yeah, it's possible. Do I think he's going to start arresting comedians? I don't, but it's possible. And look, anything's possible with this guy. I'll put it this way. When George Bush was in the White House, it never even entered my mind. Never entered my mind that I couldn't say whatever I wanted to say without repercussions. And that's one of the great things about living in America. And we take America for granted and that kind of stuff, and maybe we can't anymore. So we'll see. But am I going to let it affect what I do? No. I mean, the day I feel like I can't say what I want without going to Guantanamo Bay, I'll just...
Jake Tapper clearly expected Maher to unleash a full-blown Trump tirade with the same fire he used on Biden. But Maher refused to take the bait. Instead of joining the media echo chamber, he calmly sidestepped the setup and dropped a truth bomb. He doesn't see Trump as the cartoon villain CNN and MSNBC portray him to be. That moment froze the room. Maher wasn't there to pander. He was there to say the uncomfortable truth no one else would.
You before you go, and congratulations again on the special. But there's talk promulgated by you about maybe you quitting the HBO show, about maybe not touring anymore. Well, you said something to Jane Fonda about thinking about that. Where are you in your career? You still got a lot of good stand-up, a lot of good jokes in you, right? Like, tell us what's next.
Okay. I am stopping doing stand-up just because I'm tired of touring. Just because I've been doing it for 40 years. I love it. Look, I love nothing more than being on stage somewhere telling jokes to strangers. It's been my entire life. It's been the most consistent thing in my life.
Tapper still didn't quit. Once again, he threw out bait, hoping Maher would spiral into an anti-Trump meltdown. This time, the setup was even bigger, suggesting Maher might quit comedy out of fear that a Trump presidency would censor him or crush free speech. But Maher, true to form, refused to play along. Calmly and confidently, he set the record straight. If he ever walks away from stand-up, it won't be because of fear or politics. It'll be because, after more than 40 years in the game, he's simply ready to hang it up. No drama, no victim narrative, just a veteran calling time on his own terms. That's what separates Maher from the rest. He doesn't perform for political applause.
For 40 years. I need a break. And I'm tired of the travel. I'm tired of dragging my ass out of bed on Saturday morning to go to some place after I worked so hard on real time all week. Maybe I'll go back to it. But, you know, I have a podcast. I have a television show. I'm not retiring. And I don't know where this started about getting rid of real time. They're going to have to drag me off of that show. What I was saying was that I didn't want to do another Trump term. Not just because I don't think it's going to be possibly a great time for America, maybe, again, not going to pre-hate anything, but because I've already done all.
This moment could serve as a much-needed wake-up call for CNN. Maybe, just maybe, it's time they stop the non-stop pre-hating and let the facts speak for themselves. After years of calling Trump everything from a fascist to Hitler reincarnated, what's even left in their insult arsenal? They've thrown every label imaginable, cranked the outrage up to 11, and still half the country tuned them out. At a certain point, constant hysteria just turns into background noise. Instead of rushing in with knee-jerk criticism, maybe they should pause, wait for an actual misstep, and respond with credibility, not desperation. Maher's approach proves that restraint and honesty hit harder than manufactured outrage.
People tell you that, and you must hear this a lot, that they get that you're one of their primary sources of information.
Flattered, and as it should be, is my response. I feel like people are looking for something that is not slanted. I mean, I certainly have lost fans over the years because I don't say the things that please people all the time, but that's my ultimate bond with the audience. When I lose people, it's like, okay, well, you were never meant to be with me in the first place.
Yeah.
We can't have a relationship.
What makes this moment even more powerful is that Maher says all of it directly to the CNN host's face. He's not whispering behind the scenes. He's calling out the game live on air. The reality is simple. Mainstream media runs on ratings, and ratings run on outrage. Negative Trump coverage sells. That's why networks obsessively criticize and demonize him, not always out of principle, but out of fear that ignoring him would tank their viewership. But Maher couldn't care less about ratings. He's not chasing clicks. He's not pandering to algorithms. That's exactly why people across the political spectrum now see him as a rare independent voice. Blunt, unfiltered, and unafraid to challenge the narrative in real time.
Sometimes can take it too far, or I would categorize liberal as different than woke. Woke, which started out as a good thing, alert to injustice, who could be against that, but it became sort of an eye roll because they love diversity except of ideas. And that's not really where we should be. I mean, they have a trail of very bad ideas, I would think, and woke.
No Maher interview would be complete without him taking a blowtorch to the left's obsession with wokeness. And true to form, he didn't hold back. Maher has long warned that the Democratic Party's fixation on identity politics, cancel culture, and virtue signaling has alienated everyday Americans. While Democrats were focused on pronouns and social justice trends, many voters were worried about inflation, crime, and border security. Maher has been saying it for years. Cultural extremism drives moderates and independents away. He's not anti-liberal. He's anti-delusion. When he calls wokeness political poison, he's not chasing applause. He's issuing a warning. It's raw. It's uncomfortable. And Maher has never been afraid of that.
Because I hear people use the term all the time, and it means something different to everybody.
Well, again, I think it's this collection of ideas that are not building on liberalism, but very often undoing it. I mean, 5 years ago, Abraham Lincoln was not a controversial figure among liberals. We liked him. Now they take his name off schools and tear down his statues. Really? Lincoln isn't good enough for you? 5-10 years ago, bedrock liberalism was we are striving to be a colorblind society where we don't see race. Of course, we see it, but it doesn't matter. That's not what woke is. Woke is something very different. It's identity politics. We see it all the time. It's always the most important thing. I don't think that's liberalism. I mean, I could mention so many issues like that. I remember doing that show on HBO, Comic Relief for the Homeless. And the idea then, again, among liberals, I thought was, for the sake of compassion, can we get these people off the street so they have a roof over their heads? And now it's like, how dare you try to move the homeless? This is where they...
Maher makes a critical point, one too many on the left still refuse to acknowledge. Wokeness is undoing liberalism. He draws a sharp line between classic liberalism and the version of woke ideology dominating today's discourse. Traditional liberalism stood for free speech, open debate, individual liberty, and the pursuit of truth. Wokeness, in his view, demands conformity, silences dissent, and feeds on emotional outrage instead of rational discussion. Maher is sounding the alarm because he believes this ideology is eroding the foundation liberalism was built on. If progress becomes censorship and victimhood replaces resilience, the movement risks losing its core identity.
It's not that I've gotten old, it's that your ideas are stupid. Okay?
Common sense is still common sense.
Yes, common sense is common sense, and I'm going to call it out wherever it is on the spectrum.
Common sense is still common sense. But somewhere along the way, the media lost the memo. Instead of grounding reporting in logic, facts, and fairness, too many outlets chase whatever performative narrative generates the most clicks, likes, and outrage. They're not chasing truth, they're chasing engagement. And in the process, nuance disappears. Dialogue collapses. Today's villain becomes tomorrow's forgotten headline. Maher calls this out not because he's conservative, but because he values intellectual integrity. That's why people across the political spectrum tune in. Because he says what others are too afraid to say and reminds viewers that truth matters more than trendiness. And that brings us to the end of today's video. If you enjoyed this breakdown, hit the like button and subscribe for more content like this. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.